This is a town that embraces the very ancient and the very modern. These Roman town walls are the oldest in Britain, built nearly 50 years before Hadrian's Wall, and they enclosed the oldest recorded town in the country. And yet 2,000 years on, this is still a city of first. So welcome to Camulodunum, better known to us as Colchester. I'll be taking a tour of unusual places of worship, and I'll be finding out about Colchester's high-tech ambitions to become the country's first high-speed internet town. We sing hymns old and new, and opera star Noah Stewart performs for us. Everywhere you walk in Colchester, you get the feeling that beneath your feet there is layer upon layer of history. Take this castle, for instance, built around 1076 by William the Conqueror, but it stands on top of the remains of the Roman temple of Claudius. They say that if you spread your hands on the stonework of the temple, you are touching the foundations of the Roman Empire. Many of the bricks from Roman buildings were later reused to build other important places, like this one, St. Botolph's, which dates back to the 11th century when it was one of the earliest Augustinian priories in England. So recycling is hundreds of years old here in Colchester. And just at the back there, where the monastery kitchens used to be, stands the present St. Botolph's, and it's there that congregations from all over the town have gathered to sing their hymns, ancient and modern. There's a long history of Christianity in Colchester and evidence of belief dating back to Roman times. I've met up with local historian Andrew Phillips, who's promised to show me some of the town's most intriguing religious sites.
And this is probably the oldest Christian church visible in Britain today.
What? Right next door to the police station?
Next to the police station.
On a busy roundabout. What did they actually discover here?
Well,
then?
we have to thank our archaeologists, really, because we're sitting here at the very beginning of Christianity in Britain, because this is a Roman church.
Now, how do you know that it was Christian?
Well, all the way around here was cemetery, and we know this is a Christian church because all the early burials are buried north-south, and then suddenly they start burying them east-west. and that is a sure sign that they're Christian. They're buried in wooden coffins, lying facing east, so that they're there for the day of resurrection and they arise. And the key thing is this: inside the coffins there are no grave goods, because a Christian doesn't need to take anything with them.
Well, look, will you take me with you and show me some other old churches around Colchester?
I tell you what, you've heard of a pub crawl. We're going on a church crawl.
Sounds good to me. This looks really impressive.
Well, yes, indeed. This is only the gatehouse of the great St John's Abbey, which lay behind us in medieval times, one of the last abbeys to be seized by Henry VIII when he took over the monasteries.
So what would it have looked like in its heyday?
Well, in its heyday, it was a vast community. It was a power standing on this hill, facing Colchester on the hill over there. It was a hostelry for travelling VIPs, it was a hospital, it was a vast institution in its day. And of course the loss of it to Colchester was very severe.
So what happened to it?
Well, in the end it was seized by Henry VIII when he seized the monasteries, one of the last he got his hands on, because the abbot refused to hand it over.
Now, you're not going to tell me that this is a church?
Well, it is actually, yes. It's the garrison church that was, because Colchester is Britain's oldest garrison town.
So how old is this?
Well, this was put up in the time of the Crimean War, and it was actually made by the same company which made Florence Nightingale's hospitals. It's a prefabricated building.
I can't believe it's so enormous and it's made of wood.
Indeed it is. And it's probably the biggest wooden church in the whole of England. But that's not all. The biggest surprise is inside.
Wow!
Yes, it's a Russian Orthodox church today, beautifully laid out, as you see. And happily, 3 years ago, the Russian Orthodox community moved in here, so we have a living Christian community making use of this church once again.
Well, when it comes to unusual churches, I must say Colchester takes the biscuit.
We haven't quite done yet. Come with me.
Well, you don't expect to see a church right in the middle of a shopping centre, do you?
Oh no, but it's not a church. It's actually only a spire.
So where's the church then?
Well, the church went when we built the shopping precinct, because when the shopping precinct was built, we put the new church in, and there it is up above, and down below there are shops. Worship above, retail therapy below.
I'm glad they kept that spire.
Indeed, and it stands as a memorial, really, to 2,000 years of Christian worship in this town.
Colchester boasts many historical firsts, and it was here back in the 16th century that Queen Elizabeth's physician William Gilbert first coined the word electricity.
Since then, technology has come a long way and Colchester remains at the cutting edge. It's hoping to become Britain's first high-speed wireless broadband town. Michael Snaith has been involved in the scheme aimed at making it happen.
I would have thought that towns as big as Colchester would have high-speed broadband already, but is that not so here?
It's the areas of Colchester where superfast broadband already exists, but one of the things people forget that in Colchester, 2/3 of the borough of Colchester is rural. And so it's very much a case of actually enabling the rural parts of the borough of Colchester to be included in this new digital age.
How could you get that service to those outlying areas then?
Well, if we're looking actually sort of using wireless to actually link up with villages in the rural areas, what we do need in those communities is high points.
And the highest building in most villages is
The church.
Coggeshall Church on the outskirts of Colchester is piloting the project. The vicar here is keen to enable the rural community to get hooked up to the World Wide Web, and it's certainly a talking point.
One question that's going to come up is, what's it going to look like? We've got these fantastic historic buildings. Is it going to fit in? Is it going to spoil the look of the building?
This is the design that we've actually put on the church itself. It's designed to be sympathetic with the building. If you'd like to have a look. I think the key aspect is actually the pilot started 3 months ago. And how many comments have you had about it?
Nobody seems to have noticed the aerials are even there, so that really tells a story of its own.
Now there will be people who think that the church should get on with its age-old proper job of spreading the gospel and leave these newfangled projects to other people.
Well, I certainly think the church and Christians down the generations since the invention of the printing press and before have used the latest technology for the spread of the gospel. But actually this isn't so much about that. This is the life that the church has in its abundance, sharing something for the local community that it serves. The church doesn't exist for itself, never has, and the church is there to serve the local community, and I believe that's something very, very much part of the gospel for us to contribute to today.
So what are the benefits?
The benefits for the wider community are huge because, of course, those rural communities beyond Coggeshall who have very low broadband speeds really can't access so many things, from simple things like paying their bills online, doing internet banking, to more serious things like getting their prescriptions downloaded from the doctor, those kinds of things.